What if the first divine wasn't a father, but a mother? Before kings ruled, before scriptures spoke, before even the word God was known, she was here. She moved before language, breathed before belief, and existed before the world found its shape. She was a river that carved the land and the fire that warmed the first night. She was birth and death, chaos and order, the pulse of creation humming beneath the skin of the earth. In the beginning, there was not a throne in the sky. There was a womb in the dark holding the first spark of everything that would ever be. They called her by many names, each a reflection of her endless forms. She was Ma'at, the feather of truth, balancing the hearts of kings with a calm that shaped the cosmos. She was Allah, the earth mother, who carried every footprint and remembered every oath. She was Oshun, golden laughter flowing through the rivers, the sweetness that made life worth living. She was Mawu, cool and luminous as the moon. And she was Nana Buluku, the one who came before all others, mother of the universe itself. She was Yemoja, the ocean that gathered all tears into wisdom. She was Isis, the throne of magic and motherhood. She was Nomkubulwane, the Zulu goddess of rain, fertility, and transformation. She was Nzinga, not only a queen of flesh and blood, but the embodiment of divine will made human, long before anyone carved a tablet, raised a temple, or wrote a sacred verse. Africa already knew the divine as feminine. Not fragile, not secondary, not symbolic, but foundational. Her presence was not an idea. It was the heartbeat of reality itself. She appeared in water, in moonlight, in the sway of tall grass, in the courage of mothers, in the visions of priestesses, in the calm balance of creation, learning its own rhythm. This is her story, the divine feminine of Africa, radiant and eternal, waiting for the world to remember her again. To the ancients, the feminine was not gender, it was gravity, the force that held suns in place and hearts in alignment. It was the unseen rhythm behind the movement of stars and the quiet law beneath the rise and fall of kingdoms. In ancient Africa, the feminine was not confined to form. She was function. She was the principle that made life possible, kept power accountable, and ensured that creation did not devour itself in chaos. She was balance, not as an idea, but as a cosmic law. Her name was Ma'at. She was not just a goddess. She was the principle of order, truth, justice, and reciprocity. To invoke her was to call upon the very architecture of the universe. Egyptians did not merely worship Ma'at, they lived by her. She guided everything. The movement of celestial bodies, the course of rivers, the honesty of judges, the integrity of merchants, the loyalty of family, and the duty of kings. Every pharaoh took an oath not just to rule, but to uphold Ma'at, for power without balance was blasphemy. And at death, it was not riches or rank that mattered. It was the weight of the heart. In the hall of two truths, the soul of the dead was weighed against Ma'at's feather, a single feather. If the heart was heavier, bloated with lies, cruelty, imbalance, the soul was devoured, not punished but dissolved. Because imbalance had no place in eternity, Ma'at held the feather that weighed the hearts of kings. Because morality was not invented, it was remembered through her. She was not a commandment, she was a memory of the original order, of how the world was meant to be. This idea that justice is not a human creation but a feminine cosmic law shaped African civilization at its core. In the West, law grew from a conquest and control. In Africa, it was sacred. It was rooted in the spirit, not the sword. To violate truth was not just a crime, it was a wound in the harmony of the world. This is why Ma'at was so often depicted with wings, or seated calmly with the feather on her head. She was both vigilant and gentle. She did not rule by force. She ruled by alignment, and Maat was not alone. Across the continent, the feminine emerged again and again as the keeper of balance. Among the Yoruba, the concept of Iwa Pele, gentle character, defined moral goodness and spiritual maturity. In the Congo cosmogram, the feminine quadrant represented the spiritual realm, and rebirth, the cycle of return that ensures all things remain in rhythm. In the Igbo tradition, the earth goddess Allah did not only nurture, she judged. She held both life and law within her soil. To the African sage, balance was not just a state, it was the beginning and end of all wisdom. It showed up in dualities, sun and moon, water and fire, male and female. Not in conflict, but in mutual reliance. The feminine principle was not about identity, but about function. She was the force that gathered, healed, harmonized, and recalibrated. She was the gravity that kept things from spiraling out of control. This vision of the feminine wasn't sentimental. It was structural. It was political. It was spiritual. It was scientific. Ma'at was not soft power. She was cosmic architecture. And in a world where imbalance has become normalized, her memory rises like dawn, reminding us that justice is not about punishment, but about restoration. Not about control, but coherence. This too was her face, the divine feminine of Africa, the feather that balanced kingdoms, the unseen law that kept the stars steady, the echo of a sacred truth, that nothing endures without balance, and no power is holy without harmony. What if the oldest god was a mother? In West Africa she was. Her name was Nana Buluku. She did not wield thunder or fire. She did not conquer or divide. She created quietly, cosmically, and completely. She was the womb before form, the stillness before sound. The Fon and Yu people of West Africa speak of her not as a myth, but as the origin. She is the first breath behind the universe, the eternal feminine before all names and nations. From her came Mawu and Lisa, twin deities born as one Mawu, the moon, gentle, nurturing, eternal. Lisa, the sun, radiant, assertive, direct. They are not adversaries, they are not separate, they are dual expressions of a single force. In the cosmology of the Dahomey people, Mawu-Lisa together represent the unity of opposites. They created the earth, the sky, the seas, and the sacred cycles of time. Mawu shapes life with coolness, compassion, and rhythm. Lisa brings heat, energy, and will. But neither works alone. The world was made not by dominance, but by balance. And balance was born through the feminine. This divine pairing is not unlike the human body, where left and right, breath in and breath out, yin and yang must exist in sync. And within every cycle of fertility, every moon that waxes and wanes, every pulse of menstrual rhythm, this balance reveals itself again. In African cosmology, the moon is not passive. It is the regulator of life, the keeper of sacred time, the guardian of transformation. And it is feminine, not just in gender, but in essence. It governs a renewal. It reflects rather than burns. It pulls the tides and shapes the womb's rhythm, just as Mawu shapes the movement of creation itself. The sacred feminine in West Africa does not merely nurture, it architects the cosmos. Nane Buluku, the mother of all things, did not fade after creation. She became the quiet force behind all that breathes. Like gravity, she is unseen but inescapable. She governs not through command but through coherence. Her children, Mawu and Lisa, carry her essence into every sunrise and every full moon. They are not just gods of fire and light, they are metaphors for the eternal dance of opposites within all of us. To understand this mythology is to understand a worldview that does not divide spirit from science or mother from maker. In West African wisdom, creation is not an event, it is a cycle. It is breath, womb, night, day, blood, seed, soil. The divine feminine is the fabric of continuity. She is not merely part of the story, she is the story's container. And even today, the stories of Nana Buluku whisper through rituals, songs, and sacred rhythms. The naming of twins in many African cultures carries echoes of this duality, a memory encoded in birth itself. Ceremonies tied to moon cycles, harvest seasons, and fertility rites still honor the ancient contract between light and dark, cool and heat, rest and action. The feminine is not worshipped for beauty alone, but for function, for wisdom, for power that sustains the universe itself. Together, Mawu and Lisa were not opposites. They were one, born from the first mother of all things. They teach us that wholeness does not come from sameness, but from integration. That the sun and moon are not rivals in the sky, but partners in time. That creation is not chaos tamed, but harmony woven. This, too, was a face, the divine feminine of Africa. The moon and the sun held in sacred union. The first creator, the first breath, the first balance. Before gods had names, before light had a language, she was already there, watching, shaping, loving the world into being. The world began in water, and in Yoruba belief, that water had a name, Yemoja. She was not just a goddess, she was the ocean itself, vast, deep, eternal. Her body was the womb of creation, her tides the rhythm of the first heartbeat. Before the land emerged, before the skies held stars, it was Yemoja who cradled the divine spark beneath the waves. To the Yoruba people, water is not only source, it is memory, and Yemoja is its keeper. She is the mother of all Orisha, the great divine spirits of the Yoruba pantheon. She is the ocean where all rivers meet. It is said she holds the tears of every woman, every child, every ancestor, and still flows. Her waters cleanse, heal, protect, and carry. She is both calm and storm, comfort and correction. Her depths are not empty but full of wisdom, emotion, and ancestral knowing. In the sacred worldview of the Yoruba, Yemoja represents the power of feeling, not as fragility, but as force. To feel deeply is not weakness. It is the divine intelligence of the feminine. And where the ocean flows, so too do the rivers. Among them dances Oshun, daughter of Yemoja, goddess of sweetness, beauty, fertility, and love. She is the golden light that shimmers on the surface of moving water. Her presence is joy, allure, song, and sensuality. Oshun is laughter in the face of sorrow, the perfume of blooming flowers, the voice in the flute. She brings honey to life's bitterness and renewal to its droughts. But Oshun is not a servant, she is a force. And when she is dismissed or disrespected, she does not rage, she simply withdraws. The waters recede, the crops fail, the people suffer. It is only when she is honored again through ritual, dance, song, and care that she returns, bringing abundance with her. This is not mythology alone, it is metaphor for the world itself. When we silence emotion, deny joy, suppress the feminine, the world forgets how to feel. And when Oshun returns, so too does love, music, creativity, and connection. The symbolism of Yemoja and Oshun is layered like the waters they embody. Yemoja's ocean is the amniotic sea, the great maternal force that births all things. Oshun's river is the umbilical cord, the stream of life and feeling that connects us back to the source. Water is the first element we know in the womb, and in African cosmology, it never stops shaping us. It carries memory, intention, blessing, and healing. It mirrors our emotions and teaches us to flow, to cleanse, and to return. In this worldview, To be emotional is not irrational. It is sacred alignment with life's deepest wisdom, even their colors. Yemoja's blues and silvers, Oshun's gold and amber reflect elemental truths. Yemoja is the moonlit ocean. Protective, reflective, infinite ocean is the sun-kissed river. Radiant, joyful, nourishing. Together they teach us that feminine power is not limited to maternal care or passive grace. It is transformative. It is divine emotional intelligence, the kind that restores broken worlds not by force, but by flow. Across the African diaspora, from Nigeria to Brazil, Cuba to the Carolinas, their stories live on in Santeria, Candomblé, and Vodou. Their name shifts, but their essence remains. Candles are lit, songs are sung, altars are dressed with flowers, sweets, mirrors, and water. Because the feminine does not fade. She transforms, travels, returns. Always. This too was her face, the divine feminine of Africa. She was the river that remembers, the ocean that forgives, the current that never forgets. She is the power in our tears, the blessing in our joy, the wisdom in our emotions. And as long as water flows, so will she. Western empires built prisons, Africa built balance, and the Earth Mother was its judge. Where others saw punishment as power, African spiritual systems saw justice as restoration. Law was not something separate from life. It was rooted in the land, watched over by the spirits, and carried out through the wisdom of women. In this sacred vision, the earth was not just terrain to be conquered. She was consciousness, she was presence, she was judge, and her name was Allah to the Igbo. People of Nigeria, Allah is not a goddess standing upon the earth. She is the earth. She is the red soil, the fertile womb, the breath beneath the forest, and the spirit of truth itself. Every oath is made in her name. Every body returns to her soil. Every unspoken truth echoes in her silence. She governs not only agriculture and fertility, but morality and justice. She remembers the footprint of every man, the promise of every woman, the blood spilled unjustly and the words spoken in secret. Allah doesn't forget, no step escapes her gaze. In Igbo cosmology, to violate truth is to offend the earth. Crimes are not just offenses against society. They are spiritual wounds against Allah: adultery, murder, theft. These are not sins to be punished by force, but imbalances that must be reconciled. Her justice does not seek revenge, it seeks a restoration. It asks, how do we heal the wound? How do we bring the soul back into harmony with the land and the ancestors? This concept of divine justice continues in the figure of Ayelala, revered among the Ilaji and Ija peoples of Nigeria. Ayelala is not widely known in the Western world, but her power runs deep. She is invoked when human courts fail, when lies triumph over law, when bribes silence truths, when corruption distorts judgment. Ayelala is called not to punish out of rage, but to remember what others choose to forget. It is said that if a person swears falsely in her name, the consequences are swift and inescapable, not because she is cruel, but because she cannot be deceived. Her justice is spiritual and ancestral. She does not need evidence. She listens to the land. She hears the whispers of the dead. She reads the blood in the soil and the shadow in a man's footsteps. Her power is not born of fear, but of reverence. She exists not to condemn, but to correct. In many African traditions, law is tied to land. The earth is both witness and enforcer. Blood that falls unjustly calls out to the ancestors. Ceremonies of confession and cleansing are performed not in courtrooms but in sacred groves, before elders, before spirits. The goal is not merely to punish. It is to restore harmony between the individual, the community, and the earth itself. This understanding is deeply feminine. not because it belongs to women, but because it operates as the womb of consequence. It receives, it remembers, it gives back. The earth does not forget where we walk. Every footprint is a record. Every breath we take from her air is a covenant. To live on her surface is to agree to her law. And when we break it, it is not handcuffs that come. It is imbalance, sickness, misfortune, unrest. The ancestors stir. The land hardens. The rivers dry. Until truth is spoken. Until justice is done. Allah and Ayelala are not myths of the past. They are still called upon today. In villages and cities alike, people still pour libations to Allah when swearing truth. They still leave offerings at Ayelala's shrines when the courts fail them. These women of spirit, earth, and judgment remain, watching, weighing, waiting. This too was her face, the divine feminine of Africa. She was the soil beneath her feet and the silence in her conscience. She was the womb that receives blood and the mother who remembers every oath. She does not forget, because justice is not revenge. It is remembrance, and the earth always remembers. In Africa, womanhood was not silence, it was sovereignty. It was not tucked behind the throne, it was the throne. The crown did not wait for a man, it sought the one who carried the spirit of the land, the voice of the ancestors, and the will of the people. In every age when the world shook and empires marched, women rose not only as queens, but as the law itself. They didn't ask for permission. They were anointed by history. One such woman was Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba, warrior, strategist, diplomat, and queen in the fullest sense. In the 17th century, as the Portuguese advanced into Central Africa, Nzinga faced their armies with two weapons, diplomacy and fire. When male rulers around her were broken by colonial forces, Nzinga negotiated alliances, manipulated rivalries, and fought guerrilla wars well into her 60s. She sat across from European envoys, demanded respect, and corrected any imbalance of power with sharp intellect and sharper will. Nzinga didn't just rule. She redefined what it meant to resist. Her authority wasn't borrowed. It was her birthright. Farther west, in the land of the Ashanti, another queen would rise. Not because she sought glory, but because the moment required her voice. Yaa Asantewaa, the queen mother of Ejisu, watched as the British tried to seize the golden stool, the soul of the Ashanti nation. When male chiefs hesitated, she rose. If you, the men of Ashanti, will not go forward, then we will. We, the women, will fight. And they did. She led the war, the golden stool, in 1900. One of the last great African uprisings against British colonization. Yaa Asantewaa did not ask to lead. She was called by the ancestors. She was the living embodiment of resistance, dignity, and divine duty. But the story doesn't begin with resistance. It begins with vision. Long before colonial empires threatened Africa, there was Makeda, the queen of Sheba. She ruled over a powerful kingdom in Ethiopia or Yemen, depending on the version, but her presence looms large in both history and legend. She journeyed to meet King Solomon, not as a beggar, but as an equal. Their meeting is not remembered for submission, but for dialogue. A queen of wisdom standing before a king of renown. Makeda was more than queen. She was prophecy fulfilled. In Ethiopian tradition, she birthed a dynasty that traces royal bloodlines to divine origin. Her legacy is not merely royal, it is spiritual. She stands at the intersection of myth, scripture, and sovereignty. And then there was Amanirenas, the one-eyed queen of Kush. In the 1st century BCE, when Rome thought to expand its empire southward into Nubia, Amanirenas met their ambition with iron and fire. After initial Roman incursions, she led her armies into battle, reclaiming territory, toppling statues of Caesar, and forcing a peace treaty that respected Kushite autonomy. She lost one eye in war, but saw the fall of imperial arrogance. Her leadership proved that vision is not in the eyes, but in the soul. Amanirenas, one eye gone, yet saw the fall of Rome. These women were not anomalies. They were not exceptions to a male-centered rule. In many African cultures, especially among the Akan and Yoruba, queen mothers were the spiritual backbone of governance, selecting kings, mediating disputes, and safeguarding ancestral law. Female leadership was not rare. It was revered. The feminine voice was not considered secondary. It was seen as closer to truth, closer to balance, and closer to the ancestors. Their power was not just military, it was moral, it was spiritual. It was rooted in the idea that leadership must serve not ego, but the people and the land. These queens ruled not just with swords, but with stories. They were history's memory and its makers. This, too, was her face, the divine feminine of Africa. She stood at the gates of empires unmoved. She sat on thrones of earth and spirit alike. She carried nations in her arms and freedom in her eyes. And through her, the law was not only enforced, it was reborn. Creation is not force, it is flow. And flow is feminine. In the heart of Africa, the divine feminine is not just a figure. It is a field of energy, subtle yet universal, like rhythm in a drumbeat or tide beneath moonlight. It is alive in the cycles of breath, heartbeat, moon phases, and ocean tides. The feminine principle is not confined to womanhood. It is the architecture of harmony, the receptive, the holding, the yielding, the returning. Today we turn our gaze to two profound systems of spiritual science, the Congo cosmogram and the Nomos of the Dogon, both illuminated by feminine flow. In the beliefs of the Congo people of Central Africa, the cosmogram is more than a symbol. It is the map of life. It charts the journey from a conception to birth, from life to death, from a return to rebirth. At its center lies the womb of the universe, the meeting point of spirit and matter. According to scholars, the Congo cosmogram, also called the Yowa or Dikenga cross, shows the 4 moments of the sun and the 4 stages of human existence. The horizontal line cuts across the circle like a river. The vertical line ascends and descends between worlds. In this diagram, flow is fundamental. Life moves, energy returns, the soul journeys. The feminine principle is built into the geometry, the womb, the circle, the river. Creation begins with motion, and motion without form is nothing. The cosmogram teaches that the earth, Kunseke, and the ancestral realm, Kumpemba, are connected by a sacred river of transition known as the Kalunga line. Water itself is feminine, flowing, reflective, carrying memory. In the cosmogram, the watery boundary becomes the space where the living meet the dead, where the seen meets the unseen, where form returns to source. The feminine principle holds the space for transformation, the pause between inhale and exhale, the place where stillness becomes motion. And then in Mali, the Dogon people speak of the Nomos, amphibious, androgynous beings who descended into water, not soared from sky. The myth says the Nomos created a lake, then dived into it, setting the pattern for life, language, rhythm, and form. Water was not just substrate, it was source. The Nomos are sometimes called masters of water and teachers in Dogon cosmology. The feminine current here is clear. Life emerges not through dominance, but through descent, immersion, and return. Creation is a cycle, and the feminine is the vessel. In both traditions, the feminine is neither passive nor secondary. She is gravity. She is the womb and the river, the rhythm behind the sun's arc, the beat beneath the drum. In the Congo cosmogram, the lower half is not lesser. It is the place of origin, return, and renewal. The female is not the recipient of energy, but its conduit. In the Dogon myth, the Nomo's immersion in water is precisely the act by which creation takes shape. These traditions teach that true power does not cease. It receives, it holds, it transforms through flow. Look at your own breath, your own heartbeat, expansion and contraction, life and rest, birth and return. Notice how the moon pulls the tides, how the forest breathes in rhythm with its rivers. These are feminine laws. They are not bound to gender, but to principle. The receptive principle, where chaos becomes order, where noise becomes melody, where potential becomes form. So when you hear, creation is not force, it is flow. And flow is feminine. Know that it is not metaphor. It is the geometry of being. It is the circle with a cross, the spiral that returns to itself, the river that carries memory and life. It is the divine feminine of Africa, not a myth, but a mirror. This too was her face, the divine feminine of Africa.
She was never gone. We just stopped listening. The winds still whispered her name. The rivers still moved in her rhythm. The earth still pulsed with her presence. But in the noise of conquest, in the roar of rewritten histories, we forgot how to hear her. We called it myth. We called it folklore. But it was memory, sacred, cosmic, encoded in soil, story, blood, and song. And now, her light is rising again. She's rising not as myth, but as memory. Not as fiction, but as force. In the voices of women who heal, teach, lead, and create, she returns in the hands of midwives and mothers, in the strength of daughters reclaiming their names, in the silence of meditation, and the roar of revolution. Every woman who speaks her truth without fear is Oshun dancing. Every man who protects, honors, and nurtures life is walking in the shadow of Maat's feather. Every act of balance is an altar. Every story reclaimed is a shrine. This is not nostalgia. It is a remembering. The divine feminine is not a relic. She is a requirement. In a world of imbalance, she is the restoration. In a world of noise, she is the rhythm. In a world of fire, she is the water. Africa's future and the world will not be built with dominance. It will be built with balance. With the wisdom of Iyala, the courage of Nzinga, the flow of Yemoja, the vision of Maat. This future is not something we wait for. It is something we walk into by walking back to what was never lost. This too is her face, the divine feminine of Africa, awakening in us, through us, around us. If this story awakens something ancient in you, share it. Like this video to honor the light bearers. Comment below with the names of the women who shaped you, and subscribe to History Store, where memory becomes movement. The future that's ancient, and her light is the way forward.